So we're going to talk about then stability of thermodynamic systems. Okay, and this is sort of quite interesting actually, a bit mathematical, but nonetheless very interesting. Okay, okay. So mostly till now, what we have been working with is basically the extremum condition that ds better be zero. Okay, and we have never really used the condition that d2s should be less than zero basically. Okay, or the fact that the entropy extremum is a maximum. Okay, so we have always used that entropy should sort of tend to increase. There should be a sort of a turning point in the entropy curve, etc. But we have never used the fact that the turning point be a maximum and so on. Okay, okay, or yeah. So the total entropy change is zero basically. That's what we have been using in the system. Okay, okay, but the second condition that d2s is less than zero, or the entropy change has to be sort of a maximum. Uh, is what determines the stability of the predicted equilibrium states. Okay, and stable, unstable, you will recall from the simple pendulum example, right? So if I have a rod at the end of which there's a ball attached, let's say, then as long as it is hanging vertical, it is sort of stable. But then I can turn it around, and in some weird condition, it can also stay in an unstable equilibrium where the ball points upwards, basically, right? So that's a unstable equilibrium. Okay. Similarly, thermodynamic systems also we can have under stable or unstable equilibrium. Okay. So here's a demonstration, let's say, in terms of one dimensional system, let's say. No, so one dimensional system I can get in thermodynamics by having one, let's say, gaseous component and only one variable change, let's say. So in this plot, we have only u which changes, let's say, and what is plotted on the y-axis is the entropy. Okay, so that's an example of a one component system or a 1D system, etc. So the volume is constant, the number of moles is constant, etc. Only the internal energy is allowed to change. Okay, and let's say this system is described by a fundamental equation, which is this blue curve, basically, as shown in this figure. Okay, and the more important part is this curve has both structures, basically, right? So it has concave structure somewhere and convex structure somewhere. Okay, and we will use this curve to demonstrate what happens when you are in a d2s greater than zero regime, basically, right? So what will happen in the system? Okay, so I guess you can guess that, for this part, let's say, which if I look from the top, looks convex, the initial part of the curve, let's say, uh, there d2s has to be less than zero, right? Because the slope tends to be sort of a decreasing, no? And in the second part of the curve, which is start from this dotted point to the second, third dotted point, etc., the slope seems to be increasing, and that is the part where d2s will be greater than zero. Okay, okay. So now let's consider two subsystems, identical subsystems, same volume, same number of moles, etc., and they are at the same internal energy. Let's say u, basically, right? So the midpoint of the x-axis, which is shown, the red dotted point, let's say. Okay, and both the systems are separated by completely restrictive walls. Okay, and let's say that I take system one, I take u energy from it and transfer it to the second system. Okay, so I take u from a first system, so send it to u minus delta u and send the internal energy to the second system. Suppose I could do this process, u plus delta u. Okay, okay. So the first system's entropy becomes basically, s, which will be whatever was the function at u minus delta u. The second system's entropy becomes u plus delta u. Okay, and of course the entropy change, if I have to count in the system, then that will become basically u plus delta u plus s of u minus delta u minus of half minus of 2 times s of u, basically, right? So the midpoint between these two entropies is basically half of su plus delta u and su minus delta u. And from this curvature, you can see immediately that this is definitely larger than s of u, no? Which is the point on the blue curve, basically. Okay, Okay, so let's go to the next page. Okay, okay. Okay, so this is what we did. So we took U from one system and transferred it to the other system. The entropy change became SU plus delta U plus SU minus delta U and so on. Okay, and we can easily see that, since this curve was sloping upwards, D2S was greater than 0, this quantity is greater than 2 of SU, basically, So in principle, if this was a fundamental relation, then entropy is increasing. Thermodynamically, it should be allowed, right? Okay, let's see what happens. Now, suppose I remove the constraint. So I did this as a theoretical exercise, right? But now let's say I actually do this as a real exercise and I remove the constraint basically, right? Then U will flow from system 1 to system 2, right? So I took energy from one system and transfer it to the other system. Okay. Okay. And they were identical systems to start with, right? So this cannot happen, right? Okay. So this is sort of unfeasible and sort of a conundrum. Another way to think of it is, suppose I had the same system, right? Same system which is in thermodynamic equilibrium, etc. But all equilibriums I also pointed out are sort of dynamic, right? So some part of the system can be at slightly higher energy and some part of the system can be at slightly lower energy, near the uh, average energy U, let's say. Okay. So in that single system, according to what we just discussed, what will happen is parts which have lower energy will keep transferring parts of energy to the points which have higher energy, basically, right? So we will be cultivating a inhomogeneity in the internal energy within the same system, right? And that cannot be correct because all thermodynamic systems have to be homogeneous, etc. That was the bedrock of thermodynamics, starting point, no? Systems, etc. What kind of systems we are dealing with? Homogeneous, isotropic, you remember? And then if these are the thermodynamic system, then their equilibrium, they can be described by equilibrium states and thermodynamic variables, etc., and which arrange in such a way that entropy is maximized and so on. Okay, so the homogeneity cannot be violated, etc., right? So this of course cannot be correct. Okay, so this condition that we were getting, this cannot work out, right? Physically. So we should always have, in this 1D example particularly, S of U plus delta U plus S of U minus delta U minus 2S should always be less than equal to 0. Okay. And this condition, if I send delta U to 0, then this quantity is nothing but, I can write it as a second derivative of S with respect to U, keeping only, first order finite difference method. And that basically, given that other things V and N are constant, etc., that should be less than equal to 0, basically. Okay. So that's the condition that, entropy should be maximized. The Yeah. Okay. Okay. Or in other words, basically, the S curve should be concave. Okay. So concave is this notation where, if I look from the top, let's say, I'm looking from the sky to the curve below, let's say, and the x-axis is on the ground, let's say, Earth, etc. Then this part of the curve is basically concave, and this part of the curve is convex, basically, right? So all that we are demanding is that the S curve be uh, convex, okay, and not concave. Okay, that's what we are demanding, basically, right? So concave S curve is required and not the other way around. Okay, so is that clear? Okay. Okay, now I'm going to make two more important points, etc., and uh, they are basically, so the most important point is probably, the concavity of the S curve is more important than this local condition. So the derivative, double derivative be less than equal to 0 is a local condition, and the curve be concave is sort of a global condition. So we will see what we mean by this, etc. Okay, and the global condition of stability is somehow more important. Okay. Okay. uh, okay. Okay, so yeah. Okay. So concavity condition basically works for finite delta U as well as, and basically, so the concavity condition is stronger than the local condition of delta 2s by dou u2 greater than 0. And as I was just describing basically, so these kind of curves, if we look from above, then what is the shape we see? Accordingly, we describe these red curves as convex and the blue curves are basically concave. Okay. Okay. That is the idea. And yeah, okay. So this was for 1D systems basically, okay. And the concavity condition will turn out to be more important than this local condition, etc. And I can do the same exercise by changing volume. So in this case, I change the internal energy, but we can also change the volume of the system and we can do the same exercise, etc. Okay. And again, since entropy has to be maximized, etc., we will run into the same conclusion that S versus V curve has to be concave, and locally at all points on the curve we should have this condition dou 2s by dou v2 less than equal to 0. If this condition is not met, then I'll start having inhomogeneities in the system, etc. I'll start increasing pressure in the system where yeah, I'll start basically sending more internal energy to systems at some place and vice versa. Okay. Yeah, I'll start changing concentration of the system at some places which have higher concentration and start reducing concentration at other places and so on. Okay. 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 So that brings us to this concept that, in this original curve, this whole thing was a fundamental relation, right? So the whole of this blue curve was a fundamental relation, but parts of this blue curve are not really valid, cannot denote thermodynamic processes, etc. Okay. So that brings us to this concept of thermodynamically correct fundamental curve. Okay. Okay. So thermodynamically important fundamental curve. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's where we are basically. Okay. The thermodynamic fundamental equation. Okay. So thermodynamic fundamental equation or thermodynamic fundamental curve, basically we can talk in the context of this figure again. So let's say the blue curve went from point A to point B to point C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. Now let's say I take any point A. I draw a tangent, no? So the red line is sort of, let's say, tangent. I take another point near point A and I draw another tangent, etc. Okay. Now this set of tangents will tend to intersect nearby each other, etc. Okay. So if you take the envelope of all of these tangents basically, okay, and this, as long as this envelope of tangents, etc., lies above the curve, okay, so I'll always be looking from above, let's say. So tangent of envelopes, sorry, envelope of tangents lies above this curve, etc. Then the curve is, let's say, satisfy this concavity condition, and that is the acceptable part of the thermodynamic fundamental curve. And the other part, let's say, which is between B, C, D, E, etc. If I plot any tangent, etc. here at C, let's say, it will cut this curve, etc. No, and it will go below this curve C. Okay, so those parts where the tangents will go below the curve, etc., are not allowed. Okay, so I do a procedure where I'll just keep these sort of tangents which are above the curve, etc. And let's say after point 2B, I'll start having these curves which are dipping. Okay, so I'll ignore all of those envelopes which are dipping below the curve, etc. And that will allow me to extend a line from almost B to F. So the tangent which is above the curve, etc. And of course, after point F, again I have regained concavity. So the envelope of curves will always lie above the original fundamental curve, etc. Okay. Okay. So now let's say if I replace this envelope of curves, etc., then that is what this green line is
So I
basically.
couldn't understand why you took the B to F curves, the tangent curves, to be ignored.
Yeah, yeah. So suppose I make a tangent at point D,
Yes, sir.
right? So what will be the tangent look like? No? So it will look
It
like,
will look like a parallel to the
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
y equal
parallel
to
to
x,
H, yeah, parallel to, let's say,
y
the
equal
red
to
line,
x kind
but
of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Starting at D basically, right?
Yes,
Okay, but that tangent will be below the blue curve,
yes, sir.
right? Yeah. So all those points or all those tangents which will lie below this curve, etc., right? They denote that at those points the curve is basically unstable, no?
Okay.
D2S is not greater than 0. Let's say that is number one. More important than the D2S condition is that the curve is not concave. Yeah. So it's an entropy curve, so concave, right?
Yes, sir.
And we only want to retain those parts of the curve which, when looked from above, will look concave,
Concave.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. And this construction, so this basically artificial construction, is to only retain those parts of the curve which will, you know,
Okay.
have this envelope of tangent lines which lie above the
Okay.
So how did
this curve.
you get the ABCDE points? Like, what does
So
it represent?
ABCD is given. So this is from our original curve, etc., which I drew. No. So suppose this was given to you.
It is just a like a problem solving thing, or is there
No,
something happening?
ABCD, I, did some experiments and I told you that this is the problem. Okay. I gave you the form of ABCD. I can guess some form of ABCD, etc. Right. But that I started with. So that is already, let's say, somebody already told me, start with this fundamental relation and, draw me a curve which will embody all the possible processes, etc., and which I can, call a thermodynamic fundamental curve, let's say.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I started from this A, B, C, D, E, F, G curve, etc., which was there in our previous figure also, and I made this construction by doing tangents, etc., and just looking for those points above where the tangent is always above the curve, and getting rid of all those points where the tangent is always below the curve. And I just drew a straight line between those 2 points, basically B and F, where the tangents will tend to dip below the curve. Okay, and that construction gave me this green line. So the green line is ideally, touching these points A, B, F, G, etc. But I have just shifted it above just to, yeah, otherwise I could not have drawn basically. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So this
Sir,
green
I had a
curve,
question.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sir,
Right.
you were saying that the concavity property is like a global property and the d2s by du
Yeah,
square is
that's a
like a
local
local
property.
property.
Yes.
So, but I thought they were equivalent. Why do you say like it's a
Yeah,
global
so that's
property?
a very subtle point actually, and that's a good question actually. Okay, so yeah, okay, so let's go back, okay, a bit. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So here, so in this relations, if we see, for example, right, so I had a requirement that S of U plus delta U plus S of U minus delta U minus 2 of SU less than equal to 0, right?
Yes.
I wanted to satisfy this condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this holds for finite delta U also,
Correct.
right? Right.
Yeah.
Only in the limit delta U goes to 0, this will become the double derivative.
Yes.
Okay, so double derivative greater than 0 will ensure that locally at that point the curve is above,
Oh, okay.
right?
Mm.
But after I go to a finite distance, it may dip below,
Yes.
right? So it will intersect at some other point,
Mm.
right? And if I
Mm-hmm.
have that, then locally I am satisfying this, condition, and globally I am violating that condition that this be true.
Okay.
Do you understand?
So,
That's,
so when
yeah.
you're talking about a global requirement, you're talking about the SU plus delta U plus SU minus delta U minus 2 SU should be less than equal to 0
Always, yeah,
condition.
always, yes. So that is why we are doing this construction where I take the envelope of tangents, no, which will always lie above.
Hmm.
Okay, so for that envelope, you can easily show that this will always be valid.
Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
and
Okay.
locally I can have this. So I can have a local stability, but I may violate a global stability.
So you're saying like in the figure you drew,
Yeah.
there was a dip between like I think B, C,
Yeah,
D or
yeah.
something.
So there are parts
So
which are locally stable, but which will
so there
be,
could be
yeah,
parts there which are
yeah,
locally stable, but they
yeah, yeah,
won't satisfy your condition.
yeah, that is correct. I was coming to that
Oh,
actually. Yeah, we'll just go there.
okay.
Okay. We'll
One
just,
more clarification.
yeah, go ahead.
The green line that you made between B and F, that is just a straight line, is it?
That is the tangent which was closest basically. So the tangent at B, let's say, which remained above and which, connected this curve at some point F, let's say, and it remained above that.
So it's just the extension of the tangent line.
It's just the extension of the tangents, yes. After getting rid of all the area where
I would need a tangent line such that when it hits the curve again, it's again a tangent line.
That is correct, actually. So that's why it connects F. It doesn't connect E, or it doesn't connect D, or it doesn't connect C, etc. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking if that would always occur.
Hey, 2 points will always be joined by a straight line. Come on.
No, but it's not necessary that both the joining points would be tangents to
Yeah,
the curve,
but this is a curve, right? So there will always be some point where it will be a tangent.
Okay.
So in that sense, if it never occurs, right, that would automatically mean that your entire curve or your entire fundamental equation is not allowed.
Yeah,
Right.
that is not
Yeah,
dynamically allowed. That is
That's
correct.
that's all it would mean.
Yeah, that is correct, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah. So the green curve becomes the thermodynamic fundamental relation. So the green curve is shifted just for visual. So it should come down to AB, FG, and in between BHF basically. Okay. So this whole this region BCDEF has to be replaced by this line BHF basically, right? So straight line from B to H to F basically. Okay. And that's just vertically shifted just for visualization. Okay. So yeah. So thanks for asking this question, because a lot of what I'm going to say is related to that question. Okay. Okay. No. So okay. Okay. So now it turns out that only parts of the curve CDE. Yeah. So in this curve, for example, if we look at this region, okay. So CDE, for example, right? So this is the only part of the curve where this D2S will fail to satisfy the local stability condition. Okay. The parts BC, for example, will satisfy the local stability condition. And similarly, E and F will also satisfy the local stability condition, but violate the global stability condition. Okay. That we just discussed in reasonable detail. Okay. So C, D, and E are globally and locally unstable, but parts between B and C are examples of what are locally stable but globally unstable. And similarly, between E and F, I have parts which are locally stable but globally unstable. Okay, by means of derivative check, they are stable, but if I check for the envelope, tangents will touch at other point, etc., or not, dip below, then they are unstable. So that's a subtle and important point, actually.
So just to clarify, what was the local validity equation? Was it
Local is just this D2S greater than 0 at that point, no? So in that curve, D2S by DU2 should be greater than or equal to 0. Right. So the part CDE, for example, you will find that if I'd actually, let's say, give you a mathematical relation for that part, etc., and you calculate D2S, you will find that that is greater than or equal to 0. Okay. And so yeah, so those parts are locally unstable and also globally unstable. Globally, I check by drawing tangents at those points, etc., right? And the tangents dip below the original curve or not. Okay. And as I was saying, BC and EF, so the edges of this, etc., had nice structure for D2S. No, so looked like locally stable, etc. But the tangents at those points will, dip below this whole curve at some other point, which is, slightly away. Okay. So yeah, so the tangent envelope of tangents basically will lie below the curve at some other point. So they are basically example of what is globally unstable. Does it make sense? Okay. Okay. Now this what about unstable region in the phase space, etc. Right. So now this points on the straight line. So the BHF, no, H was in the middle of the straight tangent that I pulled basically. Okay. So the points on the straight line correspond to phase separation. Okay, so coexistence of phases, let's say. So the phase separation in which parts of the system will be in a state at B and the parts of the system will be in state F, basically. Okay, and that's why their total energy I can think of in terms of, a straight line. So the fraction which will be in part B times B plus the fraction which will be in part F times the entropy of part S, basically. So it's sort of a straight line between these things, basically. Okay. So this basically implies that, unstable parts of the fundamental curve generally, lead to phase coexistence or phase separation, etc. And that will be related to the concept of phase transitions, etc. that we are going to see in a bit next class, let's say. Okay. So is this idea clear?
Sir, you are referring to liquid solid that
Yeah.
type,
So
right?
liquid solid is the most common example, liquid water, liquid gas, another set of examples. Yeah. So all of these examples will fall into this category. Okay.
Sir, could you explain why it would be phase separation again?
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
So yeah, so we'll come back to this basically when I'm actually talking about, let's say, liquid vapor system in the next class. Okay.
Okay,
So but I can actually, so briefly we can actually think. Okay. Yeah. So the idea is that, so from B, I have to abruptly go to F, basically, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's say the curve, basically, so whatever is the thermodynamic fundamental equation, the curve, let's say, from whatever I was coming from A to B, I had a continuous nice derivative. From B to F, it became a straight line.
So
So in a
it
constant
automatically
slope.
skips all of that and then just directly goes to F,
No, it
right?
doesn't skip actually. Okay. It's a
Yeah.
continuous line, but from F and G, again, it becomes a curved, basically, right? So the derivative of S has changed.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Now the derivatives of S. So the first derivative has changed, basically. Second derivative also you can show has changed, etc. No, and the second derivatives, etc. You'll start seeing that they start corresponding to intensive variables, etc. Right. So the pressure at point B may be different from pressure at point F.
Right.
Right. And how can I have that? I can only have that if one thing is liquid and one thing is a gas, let's say.
But so here, your ABCDEFG is the fundamental equation, right? So your
Yeah.
system can only have states from that line, from that whatever curve we've drawn.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So automatically, then your system cannot be in a state which lies on the green line, for example.
That is correct. If
So-
the mole number was not changing, etc. No. But when I jump between these two phases, etc., right, some part of the liquid becomes gas.
Okay, so there is
And
a
how do
mole
I
number
think of the
change according to that.
composite system? Whatever fraction was liquid, that property, plus whatever fraction was gas, that property.
Okay.
Right.
Okay,
That's
got
why
it,
the
got it.
straight line.
Right. Huh. Got
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a very subtle thing about these things. Okay. Okay. Let's go.